Oh, Suzanne, that was a terrible story you told me. How about your storage? All your precious things were in storage. How they were put in there so hastily and destructively. I would like to have you tell the whole story from the time you were forced to move your precious things until day before yesterday when you did get them moved.
Oh, okay, Glendora. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell you. But it was very upsetting because, of course, it was all the items from my house when they illegally uh, threw me out of the house, basically. They didn't have a warrant. They weren't supposed to do it. Consequently, the house is vacant now for 4 years. And there were some people who had offered to share their warehouse storeroom because you really need a warehouse to put all this stuff into it.
Yeah, the house was 11 rooms, right?
Yeah, right. And of course, it was 50 years I had been there and with my husband, and I mean, he passed away 30 years ago now, and I've had all this trouble with Deutsche Bank Bankers Trust not giving me my inheritance, so not forming a trust or anything, which was directed by my husband in his will. So anyway, this other person came along and said that he would share half of his warehouse with me if I paid half the rent. So I did that, and it was a nightmare because I am a concert pianist, and I had my large piano there, that Steinway Concert Grand, which my husband bought years ago for me on time, by the way. I mean, he didn't pay outright cash for it.
Yeah, did you tell me it was $11,000?
It was about 12, I think. Yeah, yeah, very close to that. Yeah. And so that's how inflation has gone. You know, now it sells new for 200,000. So anyway, I said to them, "Do you know how to move a piano? I mean, I want to watch you." They said, "No way, you're not going to watch us. We know how to move pianos." So, it was unbelievable, Glendora, because there were huge boxes. I would say 4 feet long, maybe, and 3 feet high. And they would just throw things in from different rooms. I mean, it wasn't organized like a box with, like a bedroom one or bedroom two or living room or dining room or anything. Everything, a lot of things were just thrown in the box.
And
So,
here you were standing practically in your bedclothes, right?
yeah, right. No, I had to get dressed. It was like 10:30 in the morning. I was working upstairs, and I had to get dressed. And they had, from what we could see, it looked like they were undercover police. I don't know. It was a arranged kind of thing that was done without a warrant. And these police lined up in my bedroom while they said, "Hurry up, get dressed. You have to get out." And
Isn't that inhumane?
yeah, it's inhumane. You're right. So I went in a kind of funny way. I remarked too, but I went into my bathroom and closed the door, and they waited all in my bedroom. And finally, they knocked on the door and they said, "Hurry up!" And I said, "Don't worry, I don't have a gun." And I was so upset with them. I said, "You know what? You're gonna be sorry for this later. What you did."
Now, who was behind it? The bank was the local bank in Greenburgh, New York.
Well, it wasn't the bank.
Oh, I
Well,
didn't
we
mean, I
don't
meant
know.
to say the judge. I meant to say the judge. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Judge, you're right. Well, the judge said, actually, yeah, it was in Greenberg. You're right, and it was a local. I mean, a small thing, a small court, I guess you would say. I
A
don't know.
city court, a municipal court.
Right, right. And the judge said to me, she said, I don't have any jurisdiction over your matter. And I just looked at her and I said, "Well, maybe I have to go to another court." you know, I really didn't. I was pro se at that point. Later, I got an attorney who didn't do that much for me anyway, but at least I had someone behind me. But I was pro se then. But anyway, they...
And who brought you to court, dear?
Actually, this lawyer who was holding me for a loan I got against the house, and I had to get it because of this crooked judge who they owed me money for legal fees, but it was in Supreme Court.
Oh, that's Malone. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't think of his name now.
Barone?
Yeah, Barone, that was it, and Judge Barone. And it was in Supreme Court. It should have been in surrogate court anyway, which we didn't know. My lawyers never told me. So he said, my lawyer said, well, you're really entitled to $100,000 back for legal fees because I had paid $200,000 and the children were settling, so they were responsible for more legal fees if they were needed. So anyway, but they held me, and my lawyer said you're entitled to $100,000 back, but the judge says to get this behind you, you better come with a check for $125,000. And I objected at first. I said, no, this is not right. He said, listen, it's up to you, but you better get it behind you. So I brought the check for $125,000, and then the judge said to my two lawyers that were there, he said, do you think we could get $50,000 more out of her?
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, so it shows it was really a fixed kind of thing. And
Oh,
then,
sure. It was all agreed.
Yeah, agreed on. And so, anyway, I brought, he said, can you get $50,000 more from her? So then, the one lawyer, there were two lawyers. One lawyer said to him, listen, I'm going to report you. He said, who is behind this? Is the bank behind this? Deutsche Bank? And he nodded his head, yes. So he said, I'm going to report you. And he said, you report me and you'll never come into this court again. You better never appear here. He said, I don't care. I've been here for 20 years and I'm not coming back for 20 years.
Oh, good.
So, but the other attorney with him evidently stopped him. And they never reported the judge. So the other attorney probably came to that court different times, would come. I don't know.
So they got an eviction order from the Greenberg court.
No, they didn't. No, this was just all the judge just indicated. He finally said, listen, I'm going to charge her $250,000 for legal fees. I think it was 250 or 60. And then I'm going to charge $150,000 interest on top of it. So it was $410,000, I know, in total. And completely wrong, illegal. So that's why finally I paid a high interest on that loan that I had to quickly get to pay what that judge said I had to pay. Because someone from my church said I wouldn't use any of your personal money for paintings or anything that you have. I would borrow it from the bank. So I took the advice and paid that for maybe 5 years. I think the interest, which was like $5,000 a month, I had to pay for. It was $4,600 a month. I had to pay for interest. I did that for 5 years. Anyway, finally, it just got to be too much. And that's when this lawyer took me to court and wanted to get my home. So the judge, that's when she said, I have no jurisdiction over this matter after like 5 trips to the court, So I don't know how clear I'm making this, but it was such an upsetting,
It's fine, honey. Just keep going on.
Oh, okay. Well, then anyway, they went ahead and did this. They had an eviction. I don't know if there was really an order, but there was no warrant. I know that. They have to have a warrant. And another lawyer that I knew through a friend, it was a woman, she called and said, you cannot do this. You have no warrant against her. You cannot do it. And the man said, I don't care if we have one or not. We're going to break in and take the house, take her out. So that's how they did it. And they drove up with these, I think they were undercover police, I don't know. But anyway, they insisted. They pulled my partner, Patrick Hanley, who was working in the basement. They pulled him out of the house and said, did you take any documents out of this house? And he said, no, whatever. A lot of them we scanned, he said. So he said, I didn't take any. And so anyway, they waited for me to get dressed, and I came down. I said, I wanted to watch my piano being taken out of the house. No, you don't have to watch. We're not going to let you watch. We know how to do it. Anyway, it ended up that another friend actually took us in for a couple months because I had no place to go. They said, we can take you to a shelter.
Isn't that awful? That's terrible.
Yeah, it's very humiliating also because my husband, we worked hard for whatever we got, and we had enough that I could survive, and he left me a good portion, but they didn't give it to me. So this is the result of what Deutsche Bank really did to me, and Bankers Trust. So going through all this trouble, and of course I fought. You see, I was a person who fought, Glendora, like you would. I know you would, for justice. And a lot of people do not fight. And I went out and picketed, protested. We spent time making leaflets. And actually, we had different people come up to us. And one man came up and said to Patrick, he said, I'm reading your leaflet. And he said, my family is planning on putting our money with Bankers Trust. At that time, it was Bankers Trust before Deutsche bought it. And Patrick said, well, read my leaflet and our leaflet and figure out what you want to do. He said, I will. So about a day or two later, he came back and he said to Patrick, my partner, he said, thank you very much for informing me. He said, now I am not going there. I read your leaflet and I don't want to bring my money to Bankers Trust.
Good thing you did.
Yeah, so Patrick said, well, you know what? Try to help other people because there are a lot of people that are being taken with this whole thing.
Sure, in the surrogate court, one right after another every day. Westchester County Surrogate Court.
Yeah. And at that time, there was Judge Emanuele, and then we were stuck with Judge Scarpino, who was the next one who gave bad orders, So anyway, someone took us in for a couple months until I found an apartment that I could, go into. But in the meantime, in this warehouse with Tommy, I shared the rent, and I paid it all the time. We kept a record. We copied all the checks.
How much was the rent?
Well, it started out with 400 and I don't know, I forget now. It was around maybe 420, and actually it got up to 500. With raises, different as the years went by. So it was like 4-year time that we were there. And I think he mentioned, not to us, but he mentioned that, someone he thought was going to buy the building that the warehouse was in, but that they didn't have to move. So we didn't, plan on anything like that. And then the last minute, about 2 months before we were supposed to get out, he says, look, someone, U-Haul bought the building, and we have to get out of there. Well, all of a sudden, this was a shock to us, of course.
That was a month's notice he gave you, right? A month?
Well, I think it was a little more than a month, maybe a month and a half. The only problem is he wouldn't give us the combination. We went down there, and we couldn't get into the building because there's a new combination to get into the building. So we made another trip down, hoping we would meet up with someone, and sure enough, we met up with the manager there at the building who was taking care of it. And we said, when was this building sold? He said, 3 years ago. I said, what? 3 years ago? I mean, I had been there 4 years. So he said, well, yes, but he said people definitely had to all get out by July 31st. And the time we were there, I think it was like August, second week of August or something, when Tommy had let us know, the first part of August, I believe. But anyway, I don't know, I'm not exact maybe on all these dates, but we said, well, can we get in? He said, no, you have to have a combination. He said, well, I'll tell you what, everyone has moved out of here. And we said, wait a minute, is there we're a room up on the 6th floor where we were? Well, yeah, he said, there's some things left up there. That's all I know. I can take you up there and you can look at it. So he took us up there and we looked and it was Tommy's warehouse section, you know. So we looked at it and we were appalled, of course, because it was just filled with things that we couldn't get to before. We were busy with other things, legal matters and stuff. So we said, well, can we get in to move out? He said, no, you can't unless you have a combination to the building, because I don't know you people, and Tommy rented this place, and you're not supposed to sublet. But he said, I don't know who you are. So we said, well, we can prove it. And he said, well, you'll have to call the management or, you know, the people above him. Anyway, he said, to get in touch with Tommy, the person that rented it. So we tried to get in touch with Tommy. Tommy would not give us the combination. He would, you know, so we kept drifting along. We finally wrote the real estate company for U-Haul. We wrote U-Haul. We tried. We got an attorney to help us. And finally, the attorney called the attorney for U-Haul and said, listen, you have to help these people. You can't allow them. They can prove it's their possessions. And, you know, my Chinese antique furniture and my Russian paintings, I had proof of all that. So, finally...
Well, also, you were a concert pianist, and you had a very grand and successful tour in Russia, and you had posters announcing that you would be giving the concert, and then you couldn't find those posters.
You're right. And finally, when we started, it was some job going through all this 11 rooms of stuff, you know, that we had to get out. And we finally got a couple people to help us, and someone else said they would pay for part of it for me, and please try to move and get out of there so you get your piano, you get your posters, you get your necessary things. So.
And all the time you never heard from Tommy, all that time.
To this day, we haven't heard from him.
Yeah, isn't that something?
So finally the lawyer, I guess somebody must have informed him, you know, you have to give them the combination because they have to get in after we proved who we were and everything. So,
and by now it's July, August, September, and October.
Yeah, I think it was like when he gave the combination, I forget now, it's October.
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead.
Anyway, finally gave it to us, and we had to rush, and we got our attorney to ask, please, if they would give us a little extension because we had so much to get out, we couldn't get it all out. And they finally gave us somewhat of an extension, but it was hard going. I mean, they wouldn't give us a bit like, you know, a whole month or whatever. So finally they said, no more. You have to be out by such and such a date, which was like a week later or something. Anyway, we got people to help us. And now where was I with the...
now let's see, where were... Okay, go ahead. You're doing fine, honey. You're doing fine.
Oh, okay. Now the Russian paintings, we finally, with all our efforts, we got another man to move the piano out. I had paid the mover who moved the piano in there $65 for the rollers under the piano. that you just roll it in and out, you know. And when the movers came to move the piano now, just recently, they said there are no rollers under it. So we said, well, we bought them. We paid $65. So evidently, I don't know, the people who moved it in there must have made me pay for it, and then they took the rollers from
Look,
under.
yeah, uh-huh.
So anyway, there were no rollers. So they moved the piano. They got some rollers to put underneath, and they moved the piano. But we couldn't find the piano legs or the pedals.
My
So
goodness.
when they move the piano, they take the legs off of the concert grand and the pedals. So the man said, well, where are the legs and the pedals? I said, I don't know, because there are 3 rows of legal boxes up to the ceiling, and I have no idea. I have to go through all of those to see if it's in the back or where is it. So finally we kept working, and we got a moving company, some movers from Connecticut, and they were very upset when they saw all these boxes. But anyway, they ended up working at it, and my partner was helping them move the boxes. They moved them. They finally got way in the back of the storage room, way by the ceiling, was one of these big boxes that they throw things into. And it was wrapped quickly with some cellophane around them, but the legs and the pedals were in there. Now, why did they have it with the piano way in the front of the storage room? They hid it way in the back, so I wouldn't know where it was.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand their motive for that.
no, I think maybe they had instructions: make things hard for her, just make them really hard for her.
Okay.
So I honestly believe that. But anyway, we got the pedals and so on. Then we would miss, cushions. Now, I had McGuire outdoor furniture. I think at the time, 40 years ago, my husband paid $20,000 for it. It was outdoor furniture, beautiful McGuire. And when the fella said, since it's so heavy, the fella in Connecticut who was helping me with money and so on for this, paid half of it. He said, listen, if you can't have the heavy furniture wherever you're storing it, he says, I can have it brought to Connecticut and I'll hold it for you until whenever you want it. Don't worry about it. So I said, well, fine, that's fine with me. So when they moved it, believe it or not, there were supposed to be 4 beautiful chairs with a round table and beautiful wood. It's redwood-like. But anyway, there were only 2 chairs. So, I was looking on the internet, and the sofas with teak furniture like that run about $6,000, just a sofa.
Wow.
And I had a sofa there. I had 2 chairs.
The time is 1:00 p.m.
Keep going, honey. Keep going.
Okay. I had two chaise there, and one was taken. There was only one chaise, and it was broken. The hinge on it was broken. And there were 4 chairs with a round table, and only 2 chairs were left. So this is the way it was going. And who was taking these things? I presume it was the moving company, but it could be Tommy. I don't know who took them. Anyway, he did take that furniture. And then, Glendora, as you mentioned, something very important to me were the posters from Russia, from Georgia, Russia. And I had performed there, and they were all framed in, I had them up on the wall in my music room. And I tell you, we looked and looked right to the very end. We could not find them.
Oh, that's a
Now,
shame.
that could be a vicious act, where they thought, that's very dear to her, and we ought to, take them, whatever. But there were other things. Only a little Russian bowl was left. All the items I bought in Russia there and took them home, they were all gone. So my music box that came from Switzerland from someone, that was gone. My art piece, my coffee table, That was gone when the original movers from this lawyer with the policeman, with the undercover police, from what I presume they are. That was gone, the coffee table. Someone took it. They had to. And I priced those. I mean, my husband paid $10,000 for it. It was beautiful. It's an art piece with Japanese. I think it's made out of cast iron. It was a father and son, Laverne, who made these beautiful things. You know, that was gone. And you know, some of my clothes, hats, and things were gone.
Oh, you lost your hats?
Well, I had one lovely beret that I loved, a black one. And when they were waiting in my bedroom while I got dressed for me to get out, I had a suitcase there with some things in it. And I remember tossing it in the suitcase, not thinking that these policemen would grab it. But while I was in the bathroom, evidently they took it out of the suitcase.
Oh.
It's a story that you would never experience this. You know, what an experience to go through this, you know?
Nobody would, and that's why I'm asking you to report it.
Yeah, I think it's a good lesson for people to realize what these people are capable of doing, which I wasn't brought up this way at all, and I don't think you were. You're not, you can't believe that people would do things like this, but it's pretty obvious they do. So anyway, this has been my horrible experience with, I finally got a storage room that I rented, and I put some of the essential things, my baker desk. I had sponsors in Grand Rapids for my music, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they made Baker Furniture. It's a very good name. It was a beautiful desk, kind of a Japanese, figurines on it and so on. My husband had it in his office. So I kept that. I put it in the storage. And then I had an antique from China. And that was broken, part of it on the end. We found the piece finally that was broken off. And I have the papers on that. It was an original Chinese antique. So I put that in the storage room. And then a lot of boxes, legal papers in the storage room. Excuse me. And it was such a load of legal papers that we had to finally find another place near my apartment where I could pile those up and keep them. I had to have the movers come over here, and they complained a lot, where we had to put them, and it was unbelievable. And now a lot of the boxes aren't labeled, which I wished I had thought of more with a marking pencil. So of course some things we're going to have to look through the boxes to find. So it's a horrible story. I don't mean to complain or anything, but I mean, I never expected a thing like this, and Tommy made it very difficult. Has never heard from him whatsoever. We wrote very nice letters to him. We tried to tell him, please, Tommy, we have to have the combination and all that to get in. Well, finally he was forced to do it. So evidently he was, because finally he came through the last minute and gave us very little time. We were just rushed. We had trouble getting movers, I mean, you can't get them that. And if you do, they want a huge amount without even seeing it. I mean, if you see the amount, it would be quite expensive. But the fella in Connecticut said, I can try to get someone who is a young fella with a helper, and they will do it. But he wasn't very pleasant about it. And he asked for more money, and we paid him more. But it was nothing anyone would want to experience. That's all I can say. And I did save the antique and the baker desk, and then things were thrown around, like we couldn't find a cushion
Well, what about the mover who kept saying, you don't want this? Can I have it?
Oh yes, I know there was someone who helped us Sunday, the last minute in the afternoon, but and he, without, when you're upset like this, you see different things and they show up. And I had kept the Waterford crystal. I thought, well, I'll keep it. I don't know where I'm going to put it. So he came along later and said, listen, could I have this? Would you mind? I said, no, I think maybe. Finally, I said, well, okay, take it. I thought, I don't have a home to put it in right now. So, it's fast decisions where you don't really think quick enough. Because I think the people I could have given things to, not to him.
So now listen, what dates are we talking about? The actual moving happened what? Yesterday, the day before, the day before, the day before?
It was Saturday.
Oh, okay. And this is Wednesday.
Yeah. Sunday and Saturday.
Sunday and Saturday, uh-huh.
Yeah, Sunday was just, we were going there to check for any leftovers and things, that's all.
Well,
And I found other 6 boxes, yeah.
And did Tommy leave some of his things there, dear, for you to take care of?
Tony? Or Tom?
Tommy, yeah, Tommy.
Tommy?
Did he leave some of...
But we asked the manager, we said, is he coming back? Is he taking these out? He said no. So the one fellow that asked me, for the Waterford thing, I noticed he was sort of going through things and taking things from that side. But we didn't pay any attention to that. I mean, I can't worry about Tommy, if he's not taking his things out. Well, I know they didn't want him to meet up with us. That's all. They didn't want the 2 of us in there, naturally. So, I don't think Tommy even took them out. I don't understand.
And I was depressed by the inhumanity of the movers, how they took advantage of you.
Yes. It was, we figured out, they took things evidently when we weren't looking, we presume. I mean, there were things missing, I mean, one minute we thought they were there and then we didn't see them. So, it's hard to pin people down when you're in that situation. And actually, we should have people watching where they're putting it, when they put it there,
Yes.
You should have more people with you. But it was the 2 of us, of course.
So behind all this was Deutsche Bank?
Definitely. I mean, they have caused me so much trouble. Bankers, I wouldn't advise anyone. And, of course, a lot of banks are the same way. But Deutsche purchased Bankers Trust in 1999. And it goes, it's like if you have a name change, you still are responsible for the same debts. So Deutsche Bank definitely is, I read once, they're responsible for whatever Bankers Trust left them in their package. I read once Deutsche Bank had, I don't know, several thousand lawsuits there. Now, I doubt they settled all these lawsuits,
Oh, sure, right. Well, so there you are with well, at least you got through it, dear. At least you're both alive.
Yes, and you've been a very good friend because you understand, Glendora, injustice, and you know from experience,
Oh,
what
yeah.
the courts are like.
I know how bad the courts are. I know how bad the lawyers are. I know how bad the banks are.
Right.
And that's all they do is they just prey upon trusts that have been left in Westchester.
Yes, they do. I mean, and people are unaware of this.
Yes. Oh, yeah, they don't, they're unaware of it. But people like you are changing that.
Well, I hope so. And my husband knew about banks too. But the thing is, he had 5 executors. Now, how many people have 5 executors? And he figured that his accountant was one executor and one of his partners with two nursing homes they owned, or I don't know how many nursing homes they owned in Florida, he made him another executor. Now, he resigned as soon as he got his share of the nursing homes. He resigned right away because he saw what was going on. And the other executor, the accountant, was guilty of doing too many books. He did the son's books, he did the estate books, my husband's. He wanted a commission, and the IRS said, no, he's wearing too many hats. He can't be paid from every angle of it, you know? So he got, you see, they won him over. They made deals with him, or I can't say that for a fact, but they definitely got to him, the accountant. That's what they did, because he covered up things. And he was very nervous. My stepson, David, went with me to the accountant's office while this was all going on, the executives meeting, you know, after my husband died. And we went after him. We said, what are you doing? Why aren't you standing up for us in the estate? Why are you doing these things with my brother Eddie and so on? And he got so nervous. He was just going back and forth in his chair. He didn't know what to say. And he was so nervous when we had him for a deposition. The partners in his company were sitting in the room with a deposition. They were scared to death because they were doing wrong things with the IRS, definitely. We caught it. We caught it all with one of my partners in my group. With the research, we found out. But you see, my husband didn't, he trusted these two men that they would fight for me. You know, they would stand up for me. But they caved. They didn't stand up for me enough. They believed that I was left a certain inheritance, but they didn't stand up for it. And the bank did a lot of wrong things. I mean, we haven't, you know, I can't name all those, but I have them.
And that would, and White and Case?
Yeah, White and Case law firm, yes, they're the ones who drafted the will, and it's unbelievable what kind of things they did. And also on the letters testamentary, you know, that's very important. Glendora, I've mentioned it many times, but they had Bankers Trust Company of New York. That was not in existence when my husband died.
There you are, yep.
Came in existence 10 years later when Deutsche Bank bought them.
Yep.
So, you know,
and they took
testamentary have to have the exact name, you know?
Yeah, and they've taken all your money that your husband left you.
Well, yes. So, I mean, you wonder, where did the money go? And they used to send me statements of money left in the estate and never gave me, it wasn't given to me, they were holding it, but they never had interest on it. Now, you can't tell me they didn't get interest on it. $600,000 that they took out of the estate a year ago, just all of a sudden without asking me. I never heard about it. They claimed there was some court hearing about it, I don't know, a year or two before that. But I never, you know. So all of a sudden that disappeared out of the estate.
Yeah.
And there was no interest, so they must have been making interest themselves on that money.
Sure.
I don't know, but, you know, these are the kind of things these people do, and people should be aware of this. And I know someone very prominent with the magazine, I can probably say the Forbes, but I know they said to me, you know, Suzanne, you never go to a bank with your estate. But you see, my husband had 5 executors, and he didn't want just one attorney. I don't think he trusted them either, dealing with his son, Eddie. He didn't want that. He thought this way, with 5 executors, they will protect me. So he tried. I'm not blaming my husband. He tried, you know. But this is what they do. This is what they do, and people should know about it. This is what the...
Oh, all right. Is there any hope of recovering any money now?
Well, I don't know. You know, we can let let people know what goes on, and it's not good for them, for other people to know about this. Because
No,
like the man,
and that's our intent is to protect the other people.
right, and to protect them. And it's like the man who came up to my partner, and said, I read your leaflet, and I'm not going to the bank. I was going to go there, but I'm not going to now.
Yeah.
So, you see, it's not good publicity for them. If they want to keep on this way, we're alerting other people, and we're letting them know what goes on, which a lot of people do not know.
Do you know of any more money that you might recover now at this point?
No, there is one unclaimed funds bond that the one son, the older son, Eddie, he wrote and said, there's one bond, you better try to get it, and maybe you should do the right thing and give me 20%, and anyway, so I knew about the bond. We tried to get it 10 years ago, and they wouldn't give it to me because they said all the executors had to sign for it. Then I found out the bank tried to get it, and they couldn't get it because they would need my signature. So it didn't work too well. Now they say, well, now the fellow in Connecticut got an attorney to write them. So now they are responding, and now they want a list of the heirs, who the heirs are. I mean, it's such a joke. Well, sure, we'll give them a list of the heirs and who's entitled. The children have settled for a very low amount, only a small percentage of what they were supposed to get. So, sure, we're going to respond to them. So
Okay.
now, someone who had known me from the church, another person, informed me that there were several bonds my husband had with the bank, and none of them were less than $250,000. There were several of them, and we didn't find them listed in the final accounting at all. So what happened to all the bonds, But anyway, there's this one bond, so we'll see what happens with that.
Okay. Well, okay, Sue, does that wind it up, or are we up to date now?
Yeah, I think Glendora, I hope it came over pretty well, but...
Yeah. Again, folks, let me remind you, I've heard this horrible story, and I wanted you to hear it, and that's why Suzanne just gave it to us.
Yes, thank you, Glendora, and I hope it helps people. I hope they listen and take it in. Yeah.
Okay, honey, we'll stay with you, and we'll try to keep the public posted.
Okay, thank you very much, Glendora.
Take care. Grace and peace unto you all.
Thank you, same to you.
Down, dear. Bye-bye. What day is it? Wednesday. What time is it? The birdies will tell us what time it is, honey.
The time is 1:20 p.m.